Welcome to the Thursday night edition of Big Blossom Baptist Church. And so tonight is prayer meeting night, and it's tonight we gather together and pray for many people. And right now, most of our people are doing quite well, and we're glad for that. Now, Brother Pitt's in the hospital. Pray for him. He's coming along slowly, but doing better. We thank God for that, and trust that he'll soon be out and soon be going well. And Travis Scott, we've been praying for him. He's home. He's doing well. Travis, if you're listening, give me a call and I'll send you $20. And you can tell me if you want it cash, check, COD, or money order, and it'll be arriving in your home soon. So if you're not listening, don't call me. And so anyway, we are looking forward to looking at the Word of God tonight. And Brother McBride's gone. He's down in Mississippi. He's doing a video revival. And so I hope through all this, a lot of videos get saved. And but prospect's not too great. The county he's in, there's probably about 3 people that have videos to watch him. And so anyway, we hope God blesses him, has a good time. But his wife and daughter are here, and they're 2/3 of the group, so I guess they're most of it, and they're going to sing for us. And they always sing, and they're always a blessing, and so we thank God for them. So listen to them, enjoy it a while, and then I'll preach and pour sour grapes on it, okay? Thank you.
Jordan, eyes of
Tonight we're in the book of Genesis, chapter 42. Last week we were looking at 41 and looking at Joseph as he, of course, becomes the second ruler of Egypt, head of the Department of Agriculture. And of course, for 7 years, they put back 20% of the crops to be ready for the time of famine that's going to come on. He marries a wife down there, and he has 2 children. One of them was Manasseh, and the other was Ephraim. And if you remember last week, we talked about the fact that Manasseh means forgetting. And so Joseph now is forgetting, and I believe forgiving his brothers and all that they have done to him, forgetting all the bad things of the past, forgiving them for making fun of him about his coat of many colors, forgiving them, throwing him in the pit, someone would leave him there and die, forgiving them for selling him into the Midianite merchants, and going to Egypt and being in Potiphar's house, and forgiving Potiphar for throwing him in prison because his wife lied on Joseph. And so he's in prison a while, and he had a couple of people, and one of them, the king's cupbearer, said, when I get out, I'll mention you to Pharaoh and maybe get you out of this place. But he forgot, and for 2 years he's still in prison. And so all these things have happened to him, but we recognize, of course, that he is forgetting all those things and he's going forward. Paul said, forgetting those things that are behind, that we're to move forward, we're to go on. And there are things that we need to forget in our life, and he certainly did that. And then his other son, of course, his name was Manasseh, and it meant fruitful. And so now Joseph is going to have a fruitful life. He's going to be not only the great ruler of that part of the world, and the fact that he has the storehouse, and if anybody needs anything, they go to him. And so Pharaoh's placed him in that great position. And this is where he's at now during this great time of famine that's gone all over the country there. And so now in chapter number 42, we see that this famine for the nation of Israel, that really is just being formed, is very severe on them up in Canaan's land. And so it became a matter of life and death for them to get food and for them to be able to make it. And so there is a man here that takes the responsibility of making sure they have that food. Now this man's gone through a lot of things in his life, a lot of trials, a lot of good days and bad days. Times he was deceived, at other times he was a deceiver. But he met God there at the Brook of Nile in a great wrestling match, and God changed his name. And we recognize that was a good thing. And of course, he became Israel, Prince of God and Prince of Men. And so, he's trying to live a normal life, I guess, as a person that has sheep and cattle and so forth. And some things happen, and of course it happened to Joseph. And now they're at the place that he's in Egypt. They're still in the promised land. And so they need something that they need. There's a need that arises. So in verse number 1, it says, now, when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, why do you look one upon another? His boys were standing around not knowing what to do. The famine is there. Death is going to come upon them, and so they did not know what to do. And so in order to get something done, someone has to call the shots. And Jacob is the head of that group of people. He's the head of that clan. And so he is going to tell them what to do. He is really the leader. These other boys have not reached that place yet. As long as he's alive, he's going to be the leader. And so he said, I've heard there's corn in Egypt, verse 2. Get down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. Now, he says, I'm responsible, and I want my family to live. And so in order to live, you're going to have to go down to Egypt. In order to live, you're going to have to go down there. You're going to have to buy corn from them and bring it up here to feed yourselves and your wives and your families. And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy corn in Egypt, but Benjamin. So 9 of them are going to go down. And this is about the whole clan here that are going to go down. And so in verse number 4, Benjamin is mentioned, and he's the last son of Rachel. Jacob thinks Joseph is dead, that he no longer lives. He was the first son born to he and Rachel. Rachel, of course, being his favorite wife, the one that he dearly loved, the one that he dearly cared for. And Benjamin, of course, is his last son and the second son of he and Rachel. And Benjamin is close to him, and his father loves him. And so he does not want to send him down there and place him in danger. Now, you know, Jacob had 2 wives, but that was not his intention. His father-in-law tricked him. His father-in-law tricked him such a way that he married Leah, the oldest one, first. And, of course, then he married Rachel. But he really loved Rachel. And he loved her so much. First time he saw her, he watered all her livestock. And so you have to love a girl pretty much to go there to that well they had, dip all that water out, and feed all that livestock. So really, he loved her at first sight. And I don't think it ever changed from that. And Leah, in many ways, was better than Rachel. Leah, in many ways, had some boys, and many of them become great men. And Judah became the man that the Lord came from, of that family and of that tribe. And so he is hesitant to send Benjamin down there. And the Bible says here that lest peradventure lest mischief befall him. You remember Joseph? Remember he came up missing? And he went out to check on his brothers. And now his brothers, of course, are going to go down there. And he said, I'm not going to put him in that kind of danger. He's going to stay here with me. And it said, the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now, the Bible says it rains on the just and the unjust alike. Famine falls on the just and the unjust alike. And so they're going down there like all other people in that land because they need to have food. And of course, the food was down there. Verse 6, and Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was he that sold all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Now this is a dream being fulfilled. Joseph dreamed one day that his brothers might fall down and worship him. They ridiculed him over that. They made fun of that. They did not like him. Seemingly they hated him because of that. But the very thing came true right here. They did not know what was happening. They did not know what was going on. But Joseph was there, and he knew what was going on. Verse 7, and Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them. Now they didn't recognize him because he was in the wrong place, and he was in the wrong position. Now I see people in churches, and I know them. I go see them in a church that they don't go to normally, and I don't know them. And it's because they're out of place. And when people get out of place, it confuses your mind and messes it up and all that. And so they thought he was dead, but there he is alive. And so it's easier for him to recognize them, but they don't recognize him. The Bible said he spake roughly unto them, and he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. Now their test has begun. When they bow down and he begins to speak roughly to them, that is the beginning of the test. He is not showing favor. He's not revealing who he is. He does not let them know the truth that's found in his heart, but he wants to test them to see if they have changed. Now he has changed, but he wonders if they have changed. And the old song is, time has made a change in me. And so we're glad for the fact that many times time is on our side. And as it goes by, we get better. And it helps us. And we get away from situations that are bad. And eventually they disappear out of our mind. Thank God for that. But they're going to be tested now. Verse 8. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew him not. I already mentioned all the things about that. And Joseph remembered the dreams in verse 9, which he dreamed of them and said unto them, Ye are spies. Now, several times here, he's going to make that charge against them. And that is a serious charge, because you know what happened to spies? They kill them. Spies are killed. And everybody that spies is a spy. And so he said, You're spies. To see the nakedness of the land, you're come. And so he makes this serious charge, and he said, Yes, we'll see what kind of shape we're in, how the famine has affected us, and all that. And so he gives this charge here that I think would make them shudder in their shoes when he made this statement that you're spies. Verse 10, They said unto him, Nay, my Lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. Now they call themselves servants. They say we're legitimate. Our reason of being here is like many other people here. We came to buy food. Verse 11, they begin to explain more. We're all one man's sons. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. So they're saying we're decent citizens. We've been living right. We've been doing right. We've been faithful to our family. We've been faithful to our father. We are not spies whatsoever. And he said to them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land, ye are come. And that's the second charge here that he makes against them, that they are spies. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. Well, Joseph now finds out that his father and his brother are alive. I'm sure that must have thrilled him in his heart. And I'm sure he must have been happy with the news that they tell him. As we go down here, they reveal more and more about their family. And he's from up there. These folk are his kin, and he's concerned about them. And that's kind of the way it is in life. I'm from Mississippi, where Brian gone. He's not gone quite as far south where I'm from, but he's pretty close. And I always have feelings for that place. Ancestors are buried in the cemeteries around that area. And that's the place that I first breathed the breath of life, and the place I first saw the sun, and the place that I first walked on God's earth. And so it's a special place to me, and it's a place that I love, and there are people there that I love. And so there's something about that place that you come from is special. When I first came up here and was going to church and Bible college, and later here as a pastor, there were jokes going around because many of the people that went to Baptist churches up here came from Kentucky and Tennessee. And at least one weekend a month, they all went back home, sometimes twice a month. And it was a joke and so forth. And I was at a meeting one time, the preacher stood up and said, Well, this Sunday I'm going to stand at the bridge down there by the Ohio River with my offering plate, taking up the collection for all my members that are headed to Kentucky. Well, I'm just saying that there's just something special about home. And the old generation took that very serious. Maybe the younger ones don't. But you never really get over from the place that you were raised. And so I was raised in Mississippi, lived there for 18 years. But man alive, look how many years I've lived in Indiana. And yet I still have love for that place. Now I have love for this place also. But that deep abide in the bottom of your heart kind of love you always have from the place that you started out with life and the people you started out with and the fun memories you have of them and the fact that you were growing, developing, and begin to learn things and do things that you've never begun to think about doing. I remember I was so happy when I got old enough to run the corn planter behind the mule. I remember I was happy the next year when I was old enough to run the fertilizer distributor that was pulled by the mule. And so anyway, the only thing about planting corn is sometimes the planter would run out and I didn't look. and didn't have to go back and dig around, find where the corn stopped, and start over again. And that was always a mess, and always something to get rebuked over, and be told to be alert, act alive, make sure you watch. You know that thing's going to run out at a certain time, and all that. But anyway, they were going to talk about the old place. They were going to talk about their dad and all that, and I'm sure he's very interested in that. And he found out that they're alive, and I'm sure he was greatly interested in that. At verse 14, Joseph said unto them, That is that I spake unto you, saying, You're spies. That's the third time. It's getting serious. It's like you're going to take them out and kill them right now. Hereby you shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go from hence, except your youngest brother come hither. He said, it's a definite thing that you're not leaving unless your younger brother come down here. Send one of you and fetch him your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely you're spies. Fourth time he said that. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. So they got a taste of prison. He threw them all in the clinker here. And so, you know, he was in there several years, but they're in there 3 days. But Joseph got thinking here, probably they need that food back home. So Joseph said to them the 3rd day, This do and live, for I fear God. Now he said, There's God in heaven that I fear, and if I tell you this, you can do it. You can put trust in my word. I'm not trying to deceive you or anything, for I fear God. Verse 19, If ye be true men, let one of your brother be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. So I said, I just want to keep one back. The rest of them can go. You need to take it because the food is needed there. But bring your youngest brother to me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. So they agreed to all this. They made this agreement. Verse 21, and they said one to another. Now conviction sets on them here. They reminded of the past. They reminded what happened. And no doubt they feel bad about this. And they said one to another, We are very guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul. No doubt when they put him down the pit to leave him there. And he may have cried out to them. And he may have begged them. But he had anguish of soul. And they were going to leave him there. It's Reuben's idea, and he's going to come back and take him to his father, but it didn't work out. They said, Why let him die? We can sell him and make money. When they saw that caravan coming by. And so they took Joseph out of that pit. I'm sure he was begging and crying, just a young man. Not fully grown yet, 17 years old. And they sold him to the Midianites. And no doubt they bound his hands. And I don't know if they put him on an animal to ride. I don't know if they had some kind of wagon or something to put him in. And I don't know if it was made in such a way you couldn't get out. But nevertheless, I'm sure he was crying to them and begging them and wanted them to let him go. And because he did not want to leave home, he wanted to stay there. He loved his father and no doubt loved his younger brother. But anyway, we would not hear. Therefore, this distress has come upon us. They said, You know what? We're having a hard payback here. God is paying back to us what we have done. We've acted in a cruel, mean way. And now this man down here is treating us in a cruel, mean way. And so they're in a bad situation. Verse 22, And Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and you would not hear? Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. Now, Reuben is the eldest. He brings up the sin of the past. He wanted to rescue Joseph, but his other brothers made a move before he was able to do that. And he told them that don't do anything, don't mistreat him and all that. And he said, y'all wouldn't listen to me. So in a way, I think he may be trying to put all the guilt on them. But it's a terrible thing they did in the past. Now, I think his oldest brother, he could have stood up to him and said, you're not going to do this. And the reason you're going to do this, you're going to kill me first. Now, he tried in a mild, meek manner to stop all this, but he didn't come out boldly. He didn't take a stand. He should have as the elder brother and the one that should have put the others back in their place and tell them that this was not going to happen. But he's guilty as they are, because even though he didn't like it, he didn't stop them. He wasn't there when they sold him, but anyway, he didn't stop them. Verse 23, all this talk is going on. Joseph is hearing them. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. So he didn't speak to them in the Hebrew tongue. He spoke in Egyptian. They spoke to his interpreter. He spoke to Joseph. They spoke back to him. Well, we know all about this stuff. And he turned himself from them and wept. So Joseph turns away here because it was bad hurt he had when they did this. But I think he's weeping over the hurt that they're feeling right now. And he's concerned for them. And in this life and world that we're in, all of us are sinners. And sometimes we look at those and hear their story about what's happened to them and what shape they're in. And it breaks our hearts. And we cry over them. And we don't want bad things to happen to them. So he went out of their presence and he cries. And returned to them again and communed with them and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes. Now he's the one that's going to prison. Now he chooses Simeon because he wants to separate him, I think, from Levi. Simeon and Levi had done bad things. They went down to Shechem. They killed all the males that were found there. And there was a slaughter. And in the 49th chapter here in the book of Genesis, the Bible talks about their willful sin that they did. Jacob talks about that when he's dying, when he's blessing them. And it seems like by saying their willful sin, they enjoyed doing it. They got together and went down and slaughtered those people, and they enjoyed every bit of that time. And so, whether it's from God or for what it's from, they are separated here by Joseph. And so he doesn't want them together, because no telling what they would try to hatch up, and no telling what they might try to tell their dad. So he separates them so they can't be I can't think of the word, helped by one another and ride upon the feelings of each other. So he does that. Verse 25, then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and to restore every man's money into his sack and to give them provision for the way, and thus he did unto them. Now, he gives them the grain, and he gives them money for the way so they can buy gas, which is pretty cheap now. And Brother McBride bought some under $1 for the first time in his life. And so we recognize the times we're at when we got more gasoline than people can buy. When I was a kid, way back in the Clay Hills of Choctaw County, Mississippi, I remember going to the store with my granddad, and gas was 20 cents. You could get 5 gallons for $1. And so that, blows our mind today when we think about that. We're so far removed from that. Of course, we didn't have much money, but, if you had $1, that would get you a lot of gas and last you a while. And I don't remember my granddad ever buying more than $5, but $5 almost lasts a month. But anyway, The Bible said that he gave them all this and put the money back. He didn't charge them for this, but there's some method in his madness. And they loaded their asses with the corn and departed thence. As one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender, that means to feed him, and they used those. And you know that the donkey's called the beast of burden. They can carry very, very large loads. When I was in Israel back there about 1981, you saw a lot of them there. Man, they loaded them down. Old Jack out here has never been loaded down like that. I rode him some, and that's a pretty big load. But he's never carried the load that take place on those old asses over there in Jerusalem. And they went up and down the street carrying that load. And so anyway, and most of them weren't even as big as Bill Clinton, my first donkey. And of course, he's died and gone on. But, and everybody liked him and he liked them. He was a very, very friendly donkey. And the one I got now, Jack, is not friendly. He hates people. And he tolerates me. And that's about the best I can say from him. And he tried to kill me one time with a runaway. But I was saved by electric fence. And so you never trust them. Always heard that a mule will live a lifetime to get one chance to kick your brains out. And but they are very helpful, and they are strong, and they can do a lot of work. And so that's what they used when they went down there to carry their loads. So when he opened the sack to feed his donkey, he espied his money, for behold, it was in the sack's mouth. Now you're talking about a shocker. You're talking about not knowing what to believe. You're talking about knowing not what has happened. He looks and his money is back in there in the corn that he bought. And by the way, horses, donkey, and all that, they really like grain. It's one of their favorite foods to eat. And in America, of course, we feed them corn. My granddad, Shriek, had mules, and he'd work them hard, and he'd feed them 2 ears of corn a day. Some days, when he really worked them hard and put them through the mill, he'd say to me, James Walton, go ahead and give them 3 ears of corn today. And so, you know, people have compassion for the beast of burden that they work and all that. And so we gave them a little bit extra for their extra work that day. But I'm saying it doesn't take a lot to keep mules and donkeys going. So the Bible said that he told his brothers, verse 28, and their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one another, what is this that God has done unto us? They said, those guys are going to catch us with money in our sack, and God has given them a reason to kill us. God has given them a reason to kill us. Now, there's several fearful things that's going to pass through them and all this, and this is one of them. But they're going to head on home. They probably look back all the time, see if an Egyptian chariot or some Egyptian riders on horses and so forth were after them, and they were going to track them down and they were going to kill them. Well, they made it, verse 29. And they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan and told him all that befell to them, saying, this man, or the man, who is the Lord of the land, spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. They said it was not good down there. It was bad. The man we had to deal with did not talk kindly to us. The man we dealt with considered us and accused us of being spies. And he said, we told him we're true men. We are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not. Well, the is not was the is right there in front of them. And they figured him to be dead. And so that's how they referred to Joseph. He is not. And the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. So we told him the whole story of our life. Explained to him how it was. Because we had convinced him that we were not spies. Verse 33, and the man the Lord did country send us, hereby shall I know that you're true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be done. So he said, I want to demand the truth. I want to demand the truth from you. I want to know that you're telling me the truth. And so I'm going to find out the truth if you bring your younger brother down here in verse 34. Then shall I know you're no spies, but you're true men. Said the story you told, and if I see him, I know you're true men. So will I deliver your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. You can go back and forth, trade with us, and of course, several years. And all this going on for, they're ready to bring their father down, their children down, and all that. But anyway, this is a big test, and Joseph knows the test is big because I think he knows how much his dad loves Benjamin, and I think he knows that if their father lets Benjamin come down, that they have probably changed, and his father could trust them with his youngest son, and nothing would happen to him as it had happened to Joseph. And so, Joseph knows all this and what have you. Funny thing about Joseph knowing all this and the dealings going on and what have you, and they're wondering about it and how he knows about it and all that. That's the way God looks at us. God knows everything about us. He knows our brothers. He knows our sisters. He knows when we were born, where we were born. He knows about our growing up. He knows about us right now, like Joseph knew about them and knew all kind of things about them. But they didn't know that this guy knew. And a lot of people do things in life, and they don't seem to know that God knows. But one day we shall every man will give an account to God. And so that's why it's important that you and I recognize that God knows all about us, and he knows about our sin. And to be sure your sin will find you out, and be sure that your sin will bring the judgment of God upon you, and be sure if you die in that condition that you burn in fires of hell forever. And so God knows about every one of us. He knows if you're a true Christian. He knows if you're a fake Christian. He knows you young people as you're growing up. If you're telling your parents the truth or you're lying to them, trying to deceive them, trying to do all kind of things behind their backs and underhand things and think you're cool and smart and you're getting away and all that. But the truth of the matter is you're not. God knows about that, whether your parents do or not. And your parents may believe your lies, but God don't believe your lies. And so you need to get right with God and let him take care of your sin, because you're just not going to get away. And so Joseph knows all about them, and that's why he's treating them in this way and dealing with them this way and testing them. And God tests all of us to see what we'll do. And he tests all of us to see how we'll act. And many people really fail the test. And the worst thing about failing the test is you try to cover up and try to think that God did not see what happened. But God sees just as good in the night as he does in the daytime. And just because you did what you did at nighttime does not mean that God does not see and God does not know, and that God did not write things in the books that he has concerning you. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in the sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. Now, they got to go back, or Simeon is going to be left in prison and may be killed as being a spy. But after telling all this story, and then the fact that their money is in the sacks that they brought back, how are they going to go back? Not only does it look like they're spies, but it looks like they're thieves. And they need to go back here, and but they were afraid. They were afraid. Wickedness brings fear. If you live godly, there's nothing to be afraid of. But many people are afraid of their deeds, afraid of their past, and afraid to catch up with them. And Jacob, their father, said to me, Me have you bereaved of my children. Joseph is not. Said he's dead. Oldest son of me and Rachel. He's dead, he's not. And Simeon, he's not. You left him down there in prison. Now, they not bereaved him of all of his children, but 2 of his boys they have, in his opinion. One, he doesn't know what happened to him. He thinks he's dead. Maybe a wild beast killed him, but maybe not sure. Simeon, he's not with them when they come back. He's in prison. And will you take Benjamin away? And all these things are against me. Joseph said, it's your fault. You've put me in this horrible situation. You caused me to lose my boys. And that's happened to many a family. Here in America, we think about World War I, World War II, and the men that have gone over there, young men that fought in the war, and they didn't come back. And there were many of them like that. And he said, this is as bad as war here because you've allowed 2 of my sons to not be in my life anymore. And it's your fault for what you're doing. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, now he said, I'm going to make a deal with you. Reuben, the eldest now, finally is really going to step up here big time. And he proves that there is something about him. And he's going to take a stand this time that could be very costly. And Reuben spake to his father, saying, slay my 2 sons if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I'll bring him to thee again. Wow. He's the oldest. And he's going to try to make up to his father what they did to Joseph. But he said, I'm not going to leave Benjamin there no matter what. And to prove that I'm sincere and I mean business, if I don't come back with him, kill my 2 boys. Well, that's laying on the line as hard as you can. And that is saying that, if I don't bring him back, I'm not coming back. I'm doing everything in the world to do it because I care for my 2 sons. And I don't want you to have to kill them. And so I think he believed his father would. But nevertheless, he said, I'm going to try to make up for a stand I never took in the past and things I never did in the past. And I'm going to do my duty now. After Reuben said this, his father was convinced. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he's left alone. If mischief befall him by the way which ye go, then shall you bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. So he's saying, what a mess you put me in. And if I let him go and he gets killed, it's going to kill me. I won't be able to take it. I've gone through too much, had too much sorrow, seen too many bad things, and he is not going to go. He's not made up his mind yet, but we'll see in the next chapter when he does, because things do not get better. And also, Simeon is down there in jail, and I'm sure he wishes they'd hurry up and get back, because he doesn't know that the ruler there might change his mind, kill him as a spy. So he's going through a lot of mental suffering there in the prison while he's down there in Egypt. So Jacob's trying to save his youngest son. But this man wants them to go. They don't want to go. But if they don't go, Simeon is in jail. And if they don't know what is going to happen to him, and they feel bad about what happened, what they did to Joseph, And so they don't want anything to happen to Benjamin. And their father takes this to heart and says that this will kill him if he loses Benjamin. Now, the fact of the matter, I believe it would have. I really do. I believe that's his state of mind, to just wish himself to die. And a lot of times, a lot of people do that. They wish themselves to die. They get in the frame of mind, they don't eat, they don't take care of themselves, their body wastes away. People try to help them, but they wish themselves to die. And that'd be a horrible state of mind to be in. But Jacob is there in a mess. And man, when you think of Jacob and all the things he's went through in life, there have been a lot of messes. Starting out from the time that he was born. His brother was born first, and he grabbed his heel, and there were problems concerning that prophecy there. And there was a big squabble over the birthright and the blessing, and he deceived everybody around there, his dad, his brother, and got it, and partly with his mother's help, had to flee to another country. He worked for a man that was a crook and deceived him, and the guy later became his father-in-law. And, you hear all the stories about bad fathers-in-law. Well, he was one of them. And so, it's just been hard days. He had to come back and meet Esau. Esau had an army. He thought maybe he was out to kill him. And so, it just went on and on. And now his boys are grown up. At a time in their lives when they ought to be a blessing to their dad, they keep bringing things up that bring up heartbreak in his life. And they're really not a blessing to him here yet in all this, because it reminds him of losing one boy. He may lose another one left down there. They want his youngest son to go, but if he goes, something bad might happen to him. And so he is the leader. He is the head. He's the one who's taking charge. And now, in doing what he did, it gets even worse. And so he's going to have to take charge in a bigger way than he ever has before. Heavenly Father, thank you for your word. May we be helped by it. I pray that you would help us search our heart, search our lives. And, oh God, may we not be like the faithless sons here, Jacob. And, oh God, help us, I pray, to be right. And also, I pray that you'd help us see how that really Jacob is right. And they need to listen to him and listen to what he says. And we'll see in the next chapter that they will. And we'll see how that they withstand the test. They stand up for what's right. They stand up for their brother that is gone. And dear God, you open the path of blessing to them when they confess about the fact of their missing brother to their brother. And they show them that they are not out to get Benjamin, but they're treating him in a different way than they did him when he lived up there with the family. Oh God, help us to recognize that you can be real and true in our lives. Help us with ourselves. Help us with our family. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.